States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. We are in lack of a quorum at the time, so we are going to have Mr. Olson, I believe there's something to approach to the board. Then we'll do our reports, and then we'll jump down to item number 6, teacher evaluation, item number 7. And hopefully we'll have time to share that we can have our board to move actions forward. Okay. So, start with Mr. Olson.
Oh, I'll talk about, I think we're small enough crowd where I can get by with it much of that project my voice. I just want to share with the board with regards to the press release that was issued in this Citizen that's appeared on your agenda today. According to the Bureau of Mediation Services, this is directly from their website, which you can access the data. It is the policy of the Bureau that all mediation conferences be closed to the public and the press. This is based on the determination that public or media participation in the mediation process tends to have an adverse impact on the mediation process and the settlement of collective bargaining disputes. That being said, the 4 of us from the BEA negotiators feel that while you didn't do anything illegal, the board certified negotiators definitely violated the spirit of the mediation process. We go to mediation to eliminate the public and not to try to entangle it, and by these constant press releases and releasing numbers, it's only bringing public input into it, which the mediation process is supposed to eliminate. Another point is that the press release made it sound like upon receiving our offer that the mediator adjourned the session. That's not how it went. We submitted our offer, it went back to the board, they talked about it, the mediator came back and said we're not making any progress, and then he adjourned it. It was a gross misstatement of how it went down, and it doesn't reflect good on us by the way it was stated in that thing. Furthermore, the board said that it's committed to settling this in a positive manner. If it so chooses to do so, we ask that you would negotiate with us face to face, not via the public citizen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olson.
Mr. Chair, just following up on Mr. Olson's comments, I agree that the board was not prohibited from issuing a press release. The school district was in contact with legal counsel and Mike Stockstead, our mediator today, and confirmed that the district was within its rights to issue a press release.
Moving on to committee report.
Thank you. The first report item is the MSBA Summer Seminar that is coming up. Excellent leadership development opportunity for school board members. It's the 4th and 5th of August. It will be at Marriott, Minneapolis in Brooklyn Park. The agenda is on the website, and please let me know if you'd like to attend. I'll be attending the MDE Annual Superintendent's Conference at the same location, August 5th and 6th. And that's always a good time to hear updates from MDE, new state initiatives, as well as relevant information to education in general. Board members filled out the professional development survey in terms of what we would like to do for policy governance. And there was an equal split between policy governance, board superintendent relationship, and school finance. So I'm planning a policy governance, board superintendent relationship presentation for August 4th, and then Joe will present a school finance overview at a meeting this fall. So we'll be able to provide both of those topics to the school board. And then finally, just to note that the annual wellness report is on the consent agenda. It was prepared by our Director of Food Service. It's agenda item 3E. I would just like to commend the excellent work of our food service department. It takes a lot of planning and effort to make sure that every child gets a nutritious meal, and with a variety of menu options. That can really be a challenge to make sure that there's enough prepared for every student, and I would just like to commend them and refer you to that report, which gives further information. That's all I have to report, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Wells. Other committee reports? Jason, do you have any?
I didn't have a committee report.
Lauren?
We met mediation for negotiations, and if you would refer to the committee reports in the board packet, that is all I have to say at this time.
Consent agenda, we will pass at the time, but you wanted to add something, Jason?
I want to take a minute. I notice on our consent agenda we have the return of Nathan Booker. I get to wear a lot of hats. One of them is the board membership here. Another is board member of Jesus and Hayden Ministries, and by default Grace Emmanuel School, which is where Nathan Booker has been spending his time for the last 2 years. I've been boots on the ground with him a few times down there. He's doing an awesome job. So on behalf of our board at JHM, I want to thank the Becker School for his participation down there. And just bring to your attention some of the things that he has accomplished. He showed up down there expecting to have 100 students. He found 250. He found that the director had quit when he arrived, so he took over directorship of the school. Pretty good for a kindergarten, or first grade when he left here, right? Pretty good for a first grade teacher. He expanded to include all 250 students. We expanded to cover all grades of kindergarten through high school. In the midst of this, built an entire school. Nate took that on as a project of his to coordinate sponsorship, find sponsors of several $100,000 to get that school built. And so now the students are moving from tents to an actual school building. And he achieved sponsorship of all 250 students. I think I mentioned that already. And all this was done while in the midst of working in a third world country where he and his wife had to sleep under armed guard and behind fences and work within very tight constraints of being in a third world country where your health and safety can't be at risk. So I think he has done a remarkable job. And I'm not experienced enough to know how we can recognize that on his return here to this district. But I just want to bring that to the attention of the board and his fellow co-workers when he returns.
Thank you. And we do welcome Nathan back after 2 years of quite an adventure there.
Yeah. Adventure's a good word for it. He's done a great job.
All right, moving on to item number 4, first reading of the bullying prevention.
Sure, I can just give a little background information. I'm sure everybody's followed 2014 legislation that enacted a new statute relative to bullying prohibition. And the legislature took this on because Minnesota had one of the shortest anti-bullying statutes in America. And even though we had a short statute, our policy was actually 8 pages long. And in spite of that, the legislature added some additional requirements for school districts. It's taken a few months for the MSBA staff to draft a model policy, which you see here before you. And I'll just highlight a couple of areas. In general, this expands the definition of bullying. The previous policy was targeted toward staff and students. This policy is targeted more toward students, with the similar staff concerns being covered in the anti-discrimination policy. So, as you can see in section 2, the definition has been expanded to include something that would materially or substantially interfere with a student's educational opportunities or performance or ability to participate in school functions or activities or receive school benefits, services, or privileges. This policy also applies to an act of cyberbullying, regardless of whether such act is committed on or off school property. and with or without the use of school district resources. The reporting procedure goes on to identify a mandated, or not a mandated, but a designated reporter at each building, which would be the school principals, and provides a reporting system for the report taker, which is the school principal, and expands definitions, provides that upon receipt of a complaint or report that the school district will act within 3 days, and also provides for some required staff development to be determined by the school district. So I'll assume you've had a chance to read through it and answer any questions that you might have.
First question, you said, I guess I didn't realize we just adopted straight up the MSBA policy.
We did.
Okay, because I do have some concerns. I know this got a lot of press through the legislation, and I'm going to set that aside. But there are some things in this policy that I don't understand how we would enforce, and you already brought up one. Whether it occurs on school property or not, or with or without the use of school district resources, how do we as a school board have the authority to enforce something along those lines? How does that work? How would you foresee that?
So for example, something that might occur on Facebook, if that controversy and discussion has spilled over into the classroom and it's disrupting the educational environment, then we would be able to conduct
But
an
it has to come back
investigation.
to the school somehow. It can't just be out there.
Right. It has to come back. It has to disrupt the educational environment.
Okay.
Any questions?
So, I'm sorry. We do have a little time before here, so. It's opportune. Okay, this is underlined, so it's an addition, and it must just be legalese because I don't understand it, sorry. School district shall employ research-based, developmentally appropriate best practices that include preventive and remedial measures and effective discipline for deterring violations of this policy, apply throughout the school district, and foster students' parent community participation. What and how is my question.
Sure. So for example, in elementary schools, we have PBIS, positive behavior intervention strategies. We have matrix limits at the middle school. We have AAA time at the high school. We have the 5th grade program that's sponsored by the sheriff. The name of it escapes me right now. We have a variety of those research-based programs in place throughout the school district.
Okay. I have to assume the lawyers are smarter than I am, but there's things in it that just don't match when you're reading one section with the definitions of the enforcement, so I can give you some offline comments.
Okay, I think it's just very wordy.
Yeah.
And we've had a good one, we just added more legalese to it, just to make it word even longer.
Appreciate those comments, Jason.
Okay.
All right. Dr. Morrow, can you speak to the teacher evaluation plan that we have before us tonight?
Sure. So this is another statutory requirement. This was actually approved by the 2012 legislature. It requires the approval of the teachers union and the school district. If there's not approval, there's a state plan that becomes the default plan. There was a committee of 17 professional staff, teachers, administrators that worked over a period of about a year and a half to develop this. And I'd like to commend those committee members for their good work. I think the simplest way to overview this is to go to the second to the last page, where it shows sort of a grid. It's titled Teacher Evaluation Plan, and it shows a number of points and categories that add up to 100. So 45 points are based on a summative evaluation that would be conducted by a trained classroom observer. In the case of our plan, that would be a school principal. And you can see the different areas there where the points are allocated between planning and preparation, instruction, environment, professionalism, and 5 at the discretion of the principal. The left column that you're looking at is for tenured staff, and the right column is for probationary staff. So the next row down uses the term IGDP, and that's Individual Growth and Development Plan, and that's detailed earlier in the document. And that's a plan that's developed between the principal and the teacher, and the purpose of that plan is to promote the teacher's professional growth. And that's valued at 10 points in our plan. The next one is student survey and reflection. There are 4 different student surveys that you see in the plan, one for each of the different buildings. And in our agreement, the teacher administers the survey along with additional questions that he or she may want to add. And then the teacher reflects on the survey and shares the reflection with the principal. Then there's an optional portfolio, and that is detailed as far as what that would involve. Earlier in the document, if the portfolio is selected, that would replace the 5 discretionary points under the summative evaluation. And then finally is the growth data piece, which is required by law, and is what this is targeting is student achievement growth data. And depending on what type of teacher I am and what grade levels I teach, that growth data will bear itself out in different ways. But for everybody, it's 35% based on student achievement. And this was approved by the DEA, and I'm recommending approval tonight. Are there any questions as you had a chance to look through it?
I have no questions, but it's very lengthy and very, I think, self-explanatory. I mean, it's well put together. So thanks to everyone on the committee.
Yeah, like I said, it sounds like we have a good team put this together. So how did we, I don't know how to say this politely, Steve, how did we stay out of the way of the team and put that in the leadership? How did you let the team, can you speak a little bit to how you let the teachers actually help develop this and other participants help develop this, rather than a top-down again?
Sure, that's a great question. So we met first in the summer of 2000. We had some meetings in the spring of 2013. All right, and then we had a full day session in the summer of 2013. And I feel like that's where we really rolled up our sleeves and dug into this project. And I started by overviewing the law, and then I overviewed what the state plan would look like. Not only so that people would be aware of this is what we default to, but there were some pretty good ideas in there that ended up making their way into our final plan. And then, as the committee talked about it, they decided to divide into several subcommittees. So, really, for each of the areas I described, summative evaluation, individual growth and development plan, the survey piece, the portfolio piece, the growth data, there were teachers and probably an administrator on most of those subcommittees. I wasn't on any of the subcommittees when they did the actual work. So they put their information together and came back and presented it to the large group. The large group had some concerns, recommendations. They went back to the committees again. The large group met again. And then at the last large group meeting, 2 or 3 of the subcommittees broke out one more time. And we just went through that process back and forth. And then I was involved in proofreading. A couple teachers, Joey Sparren and Tracy Harair, did a great job of putting it all into one document so that VEA was able to see it in the form that you're looking at tonight to make it into a usable document. And then the other piece we're doing soon after the board approves this is we're making this into a digital format. So I've been working with Ryan Cox on how this will look in electronic format with the appropriate password protection, so each teacher will only see his or her individual data, and the same with the principals, that they'll be able to log in and see the teachers, but the teachers won't be able to log in and see other teachers. And we're just in the process of setting that up now.
And is that all set to move forward in the fall?
We are. We'll have some staff development for teachers, even though teachers have reviewed it and the EDA has approved it. I don't know, it's fair to say that everyone is really familiar with it. And I think that would apply to the administrators as well. We all need to become more familiar with it and understand it and go step by step as we work our way through it. And I have no doubt that a year from now, we'll probably be making tweaks to it and modifying it based on the first year of experience.
Any questions or comments? All right. So that's one that needs to be acted on tonight. Number 7, we can review stakeholder input. This is all the things from all our stakeholder meetings that we had, that we were given, put on the stickers last month. I'm assuming, Angel, you do that for us tonight. Thank you. Just really a matter of looking through and seeing if one of these or more than one of these falls in an area that you don't agree with, or one that you might want to move or put into 2 different categories here.
Here, and there's a couple I've noticed under students will effectively collaborate and communicate using an array of media. The last one is increase unity between students. And I wondered if that might fit better in the next category. Under students will demonstrate the ability to effectively apply life skills.
No wonder I love technologies are one more answer.
Yeah.
Carry a bullet from the previous one.
No, that was the input.
Okay.
I agree, Steve, but I also think that if students are effectively collaborating, communicating, that probably is increasing unity between students.
Yeah, I think I can
So
go
we
with
don't
that.
need maybe add it under both, but I don't know, I think having been through this now several times, it's interesting the comments that come up over and over year after year. You know, I think that's always been a discussion about that on the board, but safety of students, you know, the basic, the core, those type of things that you see on every year on this list.
The other one I noticed was under the district will maintain financial integrity of the school district. And the first bullet, better utilize the facilities we already have. I thought that might fit better up one category where we address and maintain up-to-date school environments. For students to be physically and emotionally safe and secure.
Yeah, no problems with that.
More textbooks on iPads, that's a pretty common one we see. So the next step of this will be,
The next step is we'll start lining these up with our, the fun process of making these into goals. this afternoon. She said she'd be here as soon as possible.
Wait.
On the consent agenda, we are going to discuss student handbooks. We were discussing this a year ago. We gave the challenge to try to get some consistency between the handbooks. I've seen some improvement, and while I recognize each school is unique in its classrooms and principals and everything, I still think there's some opportunity that we're missing to ease the burden on the parents and the staff to have some consistent sections and front matter to those books, both in appearance and content. For example, we're reviewing the bullying policy. One of the books, I believe it was primary intermediate, I'm not sure which one, simply defined bullying as things that make people feel uncomfortable. We just did that for, I think there's some consistency missing both with our policies and with the books. And part of this is based on feedback I received from parents that have students in multiple buildings, that why do we need 4 books? I'm like, well, each school is unique. But maybe there's some things in front matter we can just say, this is the student handbook and here's the attachment for each school and how we do that. So I think there's an opportunity to challenge the principals maybe a little bit, but everybody else is adopting these books, so we could get some consistency, perhaps more.
I agree. In 2010, we went through this process, and they were very similar. And I think the last 4 years, they wandered apart a little bit. So, points well taken. I think that's a good idea.
I agree with that too, Jason. The contacts, how we contact teachers is inconsistent in all 4.
Yeah, that was my comments as well. Some have phone numbers, some have emails, some have.
Right.
Personally, I just go to the district website and search for the not all parents have that access.
I do agree with how it makes sense just to have one generic handbook and then have 8 pages for the elementary, the intermediate, primary, whatever school it is, added to it.
Yes, I don't feel something that can prevent us from moving forward. I do think it's future opportunity. We should still consider working towards a common format.
Yeah. I just wonder if we should set a time there. At 7:30.
It's all there for everyone.
Celebrating my birthday. Oh, John's birthday. If he knows, are you going to take off? What do you mean? I let him up watch. It's been like 3 years. I just think it's annoyed with it. And it's you know, that's it's a little unruly, but it'll be okay in a month or so. I heard, well, that day I texted you when he messaged me, but that I haven't been back in the message. Are you serious? You tell those ladies to either write it down, I've got things to do. You took a little while.
So just make sure to note that. Yeah, note it.
Feel like Eric Martin. I want to see the whole thing. Yeah, I don't trust
We're still waiting to see the other one. No, I'm on my second round.
Question that doesn't bother the avid couch potato. That's good.
Whatever. Right, that one. She's ready. Okay. Yeah. No, it's 7 for sure. Just start. They want to next week. I should really both first. It's 2, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Alrighty, we're prepared to move forward. So
I got you covered, Maria.
We're on item number 3, consent agenda.
Done though, right?
Any discussion? We have a motion to accept the consent agenda as written. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Bringing us down to adopt policies. Item number 5. you want to speak to those policies?
Sure. There was a question on mandated reporting of child neglect or physical or sexual abuse. And there was a question about notifying parents. And that particular section applies to notifying parents if there's a report of alleged sexual abuse that happens at school. So that's the part that we missed at the last meeting, that potentially conducted by, potentially the perpetrator would be an adult at school, and that's where the parents would be notified.
Do I have a motion? Do I, 1, 2, 3, or do you want to do them all at once?
Okay, I'm just checking the page. I'll second all three policies.
So I have a motion by Lumley to accept all three, second by Kindred. Any discussion on any of those? Steve, thanks for looking into that. That wasn't actually right there. It's very clear. So,
Made sense the next morning.
so, okay, all those in favor of adopting policies as written, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. And then approval of the teacher evaluation plan. And this you said is already approved by BEA, so just waiting on approval to move it forward, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Very satisfied with how it was handled and developed with the team effort, so I'll move to approve.